If you're considering whether or not guardianship is right for your adult child with a disability, this video is going to help you determine if your best next step is guardianship or if maybe there's a better alternative that you should be exploring. So I'm going to cover the benefits plus 4 downsides or cons to guardianship. And before I get into that, I just want you to realize that guardianship has a huge impact on your loved one's life. So before making a decision, realize that this is a big decision. And I really encourage you to watch this entire video to get the pros, the cons, and then to start to consider alternatives that might be a better fit and better suited for your loved one over the long term. Also, a disclaimer here, this is not legal advice. You need to get legal advice from a well-informed lawyer who specializes in disability and who has a good understanding of the pros, the cons, and the alternatives to guardianship to make sure that you are making the right decision. But right now, I'm going to give you the overview in this video. But first, you might be asking, what is guardianship for adults with disabilities? Guardianship means obtaining the legal authority to make decisions for another person. This happens by going to court and proving to a judge that your loved one with a disability is incapable. That judge would then appoint a guardian. Now, again, this might seem like a good idea, but I really want to encourage you to exhaust the alternatives before going forward with guardianship, and I'm going to explain why in a minute here. But first, let's talk about the pros, because I think the pros are often front of mind and they're presented that, this guardianship is a great idea. So I think, again, the pros are kind of obvious. The guardian gets full decision-making power over the person with a disability, right? Or over your loved one. This means finances, medical, legal representation. This is the biggest pro, right? That guardian gains decision-making power over your loved one, right? Who might need help making decisions, right? So I think, that makes sense. Most of us are you're probably well aware of that. But let's consider the cons. And the list is longer than the pros. So this is why you need to be very sure that guardianship is right for your loved one. The first con is, you might have picked this up pulling it out of the pro, right? Because someone is getting power over your loved one. This means your loved one loses freedoms as an adult to make decisions. This includes financial, healthcare, residency, legal decisions, right? So your loved one loses their rights to be able to do that. Someone else will be doing that on their behalf. Now, the second downside or con is that your loved one will have the stigma of being incapable. And why? Because you've gone to court to prove that your loved one's incapable, right? An esteemed judge has decided or ruled that your loved one is incapable. Now, in the minds of other people, that plays a role, because if they know that somebody has guardianship over your loved one, this is going to lead those people to, okay, someone, a esteemed judge said that, this person is not capable of making decisions. So that's going to further devalue that person. Other people are going to assume that, your loved one can't make decisions, and they'll just start making decisions for your loved one, potentially, or just doing things for your loved one. And this leads to reduced quality of life for that person. The third downside or con to guardianship is that it's not transferable. If the guardian passes away, your loved one's at risk, right, of someone going back to court trying to claim guardianship over them. The court might appoint a new guardian, so they might not even know your loved one, right? So there's an inherent risk within that, and that should be considered. The fourth downside or con is that if you later decide that guardianship is the wrong answer for your loved one, it's very difficult to overturn, right? If we think about it, you have to go back to court and prove that your loved one is now capable when you've already gone and proved that they are not capable. So it's difficult to get that overturned, and there's going to be additional expenses to do that. So hopefully this gives you a more full picture on both the pros and the cons to guardianship, and I hope that this gives you a reason to pause and to think about, well, what other alternatives might there be to guardianship to help your loved one make decisions, and also allows your loved one to maintain their freedoms and rights. And there are alternatives, right, that support with financial, medical, maybe even things like a supported decision-making agreement. So I've got another video that covers 5 alternatives to guardianship, and they can all work together, these alternatives. So I encourage you to click right here and watch this video on the 5 alternatives to guardianship for adults with a disability. And just my last message here is I really encourage you to exhaust those alternatives before resorting to guardianship, because we want your loved one to be positioned as valued in the eyes of other people. We want your loved one to maintain rights and as much decision making as possible. So really quick, if you like this video and you want more videos like this, click the subscribe button below and you will get a weekly video of lots of goodness from me to support you and to support your loved one to live their own awesome, ordinary life. I'm Eric Goll. Together, let's take a small step forward.